Thank you for accessing this video. This video explains Chapter 5 of Rapid Sand Filtration from the manual for DPHE to support POSHWA on O&M of piped water supply system. This video was created based on the training material used in the training of trainers for the PICMAC DPHE Phase 2 project supported by JICA. This module covers Chapter 6 of the manual. It is slow sand filtration. The page number is from P6-1 to P6-11. By the end of this module, you should feel confident giving technical supports to POSHWA engineers to diagnose slow sand filtration performance, understand failures, and guide proper operation and maintenance. Through this session, it is expected that you will learn these 5 points. 1. Acquire the basic knowledge about slow sand filtration system in piped drinking water supply schemes. This includes understanding how slow sand filter works, what components are involved, and what the condition will be required for appropriate operation. 2. Understand the key features and operational principles of slow sand filtration, including the role of the biological layer. Slow sand filter utilizes not only sand filter but also the power of bacteria, which is the most unique point of this technology. 3. Recognize the typical problems and risks associated with O&M. It is very important to understand what unit will cause what negative result in case of the operation failure. 4. Learn key operational parameters to evaluate performance. The manual aims to provide the knowledge with which you will be able to support POSHWA running the water supply facility so that it will work in a sustainable ways. And lastly, identify and propose appropriate actions to support to POSHWA based on the diagnosis. The sustainable operation and maintenance is achieved by appropriate actions based on appropriate diagnosis. Here are the agendas for this session. Starting from providing knowledge of the basic theory, this is important because a solid understanding of the principles allows you to solve problems more easily. Then we will see what points should be confirmed for the water facility diagnosis and necessary action and countermeasures. These are the items you must check daily or weekly when evaluating a slow sand filtration facility. After that, we will also look at troubleshooting and inspection, where you can utilize it as a summary of the technical points. And finally, although not included in the manual itself, we shall also cover case studies for the purpose of more practical application of the manual. The first agenda, Basic Theory. Slow sand filtration is one of the oldest and most reliable biological water treatment technologies still used in piped drinking water supply systems. What makes this system fundamentally different from many mechanical or chemical treatment processes is that the main treatment is performed not by machines, but by a living biological layer that develops naturally on top of the sand bed. Raw water containing turbidity, suspended solids, and organic impurities enters the filter from the top. As the water passes slowly through the sand layer, a thin biological film acts as the main purification agent. This layer contains microorganisms that consume organic matter, trap fine particles, and significantly improve water quality. The sand itself provides physical filtration, while the biofilm provides biological purification. This combination makes slow sand filtration extremely effective at producing clear, stable, and tasty water without complicated equipment. This system is low cost, requires minimal energy, and is highly suitable for small-scale water supply systems. However, despite its advantages, only a limited number of slow sand filters remain active in Bangladesh today. The main reason is not technical weakness, but lack of proper understanding of how to operate and maintain the biological layer correctly. Slow sand filtration is not suitable for every type of water source. It is typically utilized to surface water, but it cannot be adapted if the water quality is too bad. The raw water must have relatively stable quality and must not fluctuate too drastically in turbidity or contamination levels. Groundwater containing iron or arsenic can also be treated by slow sand filtration, but only when these substances are not present in excessive amounts. Extremely high concentrations can damage the biological activity inside the filter. Another important condition is that the raw water must not contain substances that deactivate bacteria. Pesticides, heavy metals, and excessive disinfectants can kill the microorganisms that are essential for purification. Slow sand filtration is best suited for small-scale systems due to the slow speed of the filtration, which cannot treat huge amount of water. This system is particularly known for producing water with good taste because it relies on natural biological treatment rather than heavy chemical intervention. Although both slow sand filtration and rapid sand filtration systems use sand, their principles are very different. Slow sand filtration is a biological process. It works at a very slow rate, needs no backwashing, and depends on the biological layer for purification. Rapid sand filtration is a physical and chemical process. It requires coagulation, backwashing, and mechanical control. It works at high speed and is suitable for large systems with highly turbid water. Rapid filters rely on equipment and chemicals. Slow sand filters rely on patience and protection of the biological environment. If slow sand filtration is operated like a rapid sand filter, it will fail. When slow sand filtration fails, water quality quickly deteriorates and turbidity increases. The risk of waterborne diseases rises, and more chlorine is needed to compensate, increasing cost and affecting taste. Moreover, recovery takes a long time because the biological layer must redevelop. And, of course, water users will not be happy and they may complain about the water quality. At the same time, water standards may be violated. Raw water first enters a plain sedimentation pond or roughing filter to reduce turbidity to around 10 NTU before filtration. No prechlorination is allowed because chlorine kills the microorganisms needed for treatment. Water then passes through the slow sand filter, where turbidity should be reduced to below 0.1 NTU and its filtration speed is 4 to 5 meter per day. For low turbidity groundwater, sedimentation may not be necessary. Chlorination is applied only after filtration, before distribution. Before water reaches the slow sand filter, turbidity must be reduced by plain sedimentation. It protects the biological layer from excessive load. Several design conditions must be respected. The surface loading rate is between 15 to 30 meter per day, which means to be about 1 meter per hour. The horizontal flow velocity must be kept below 0.3 meters per minute. Retention time should be around 8 hours, and the effective water depth is approximately 2 meters. They determine whether sedimentation can reduce turbidity sufficiently before filtration. If turbidity remains high at this stage, the slow sand filter will clog quickly and biological activity will be disturbed. The main treatment in slow sand filtration happens at the very top layer of the sand bed. An algal mat and biofilm form naturally on the sand surface. This thin layer is where microorganisms live and purify the water. They consume organic matter, break it down, trap impurities, and stabilize water quality. As water passes slowly through this layer, both biological purification and physical filtration occur. This is why the filtration speed must be slow. If water passes too quickly, the microorganisms cannot function properly. The sand below mainly supports this biological layer and provides additional physical filtration. The biological film on the sand surface is the core of slow sand filtration and must remain active for proper treatment. Several situations can make this layer inactive. If the raw water lacks nutrients, microorganisms cannot grow well. If turbidity is too high, the surface clogs quickly. When filtration is too fast, microbes do not have enough time to develop. Excessive cleaning during maintenance can remove too much of the film. Lack of light and oxygen reduces biological activity. Chlorine or other disinfectants can kill the necessary microbes. Sudden temperature changes or harmful substances such as pesticides and heavy metals also damage this layer. Even when the sand structure looks normal, reduced biological activity directly lowers filtration performance. This is the diagram of the slow sand filter. Water flows to the directions with the buhl arrows while filtering structure is highlighted by red rectangular. The slow sand filter is made of several layers, each with a specific function. The sand bed supports the formation of the biological film where purification mainly occurs. Under the sand, supporting gravel layers stabilize the sand and help water pass evenly downward. At the bottom, the underdrain system collects filtered water and ensures smooth flow without losing sand. After filtration, water goes to weir chamber and distribution basin. The difference of the height between the water level at the filtration basin and weir top is called head loss. The operation of the filter must follow the original design values. Filtration velocity should be maintained between 4 and 5 meters per day, which is approximately 0.2 meters per hour. It is calculated by dividing the inflow Reed-B filter area. The sand media must satisfy specific size conditions. The effective size, which is particle size at which 60% of the sand by weight passes through a sieve and 40% is retained, should be between 0.3 to 0.45. The uniformity coefficient, calculated as D60 divided by D10, should be less than 2.0, where D60 is the particle size at which 60% passes, and D10 is the effective size. Specific gravity should be above 2.5. The sand layer thickness is also important and generally ranges from 700 to 900 millimeters. Gravel layers of about 400 to 600 millimeters support the sand. If these conditions are not maintained, the biological treatment cannot perform as intended. As the filter operates, the biological layer grows thicker while consuming impurities from the water. Over time, this growth causes clogging at the surface. This clogging increases head loss and reduces filtration speed. This is a normal process and indicates that the biological layer is active. To restore performance, the top layer of sand and algae must be scraped off periodically, usually about 1 centimeter each time. The interval depends on the condition but is typically between 2 weeks and 2 months. Before scraping, the surface appears dark and clogged. After scraping, the surface becomes clean and water flow improves, allowing the biological layer to regenerate. Now, let's step into the confirmation points and countermeasures. Several key operational points are listed that must be checked regularly because the slow sand filter is open to the environment and easily exposed to contamination. 1. Access to the treatment plant and intake zones must be restricted. 2 and 3. Sedimentation tanks and filter beds must be inspected for dead animals, debris, or foreign materials. 4. Filtration rate should be visually checked, and the depth of deposited material on the filter surface also must be observed. 5. Head loss is checked by monitoring the water level difference. 6. The filter bed must always remain submerged until scraping is required. 7. Turbidity should be measured at both the inlet and outlet of the slow sand filter. 8. Post-chlorination of treated water must also be confirmed. However, please be noted that this session does not cover chlorination as it will be covered in another session. Okay, now we will look at the plain sedimentation part for the confirmation points and control measure. The function of plain sedimentation is clearly stated as reducing turbidity before water enters the slow sand filter. Turbidity is highlighted as the key practical indicator because the filter can only treat water within a limited turbidity range. When turbidity is too high, the filter surface clogs quickly, filtration slows down, and water quality deteriorates. The necessary data to check are the turbidity of raw water and the turbidity at the outlet of the sedimentation pond. The confirmation point is that turbidity should be less than 10 NTU. If turbidity exceeds this value, countermeasures must be taken to prevent excessive load on the filter. Actions and countermeasures are taken depending on the turbidity measured at the outlet. When outlet turbidity is greater than 10 NTU, sludge accumulation is suspected. Sludge removal is required, and this is best done before the rainy season when turbidity is expected to increase. On the other hand, when outlet turbidity exceeds 100 NTU, which is especially expected to happen during the rainy season, sedimentation alone will be not enough to remove the turbidity. Coagulation must be introduced. Depending on water quality, a dosage of about 20 to 40 milligrams per liter is commonly applied. These actions protect the slow sand filter from excessive turbidity loading. However, it is predicted that there is not a dosage equipment at the sedimentation tank. In that case, we still have a solution, that is to put a coagulant bag at the inlet socket. But, the dosage control very difficult. The effect depends on water movement and contact time, which are not stable conditions. If the dosage is too high, pH may change and harm the biological layer in the filter. If too low, turbidity is not sufficiently reduced. This method is easy to apply but unreliable for proper control. If the situation allows, a better temporary solution is to prepare a small tank to dissolve the coagulant before introducing it into the sedimentation pond. By dissolving the chemical first and allowing it to flow gradually into the system, dosage becomes more controlled compared to soaking a bag directly in the water. Although still a temporary measure, this method provides more stable coagulation and reduces the risk of damaging the biological activity in the slow sand filter. From here, we focus on the deposit of the sludge. Sludge accumulation in the sedimentation pond directly affects its performance. As sludge builds up, the effective volume of the pond decreases. This shortens the retention time and reduces the efficiency of sedimentation. When retention time becomes shorter, turbidity at the outlet increases, which places extra load on the slow sand filter. Therefore, the necessary data to observe is the actual sludge deposition condition inside the pond. Without checking this, operators may not realize why turbidity control is failing. This is showing you how to measure the sludge accumulated in the pre-sedimentation basin. First, select several measurement points across the pond, normally 6 to 24 points depending on its size. Next, measure the total water depth using a marked pole. Then lower a disc attached to a rope until it touches the sludge surface. The sludge thickness is simply the total depth minus the sludge depth. This measurement should be done toward the end of the dry season so that sludge removal can be planned before the rainy season. This table shows an example of how sludge measurements can be organized. After collecting data from each point, compile the sludge thickness. When thickness reaches around 30% of the total depth, removal should be planned. At 50%, it becomes urgent. Regarding the action and countermeasures to be taken, sludge removal should be done during the dry season when turbidity is lower and treatment demand is stable. If operators wait until the rainy season, removal becomes difficult and may disrupt treatment. Ensuring adequate sludge removal before high turbidity periods is essential for maintaining sedimentation efficiency, and its typical removal frequency is every 1 to 2 years. Next, slow filtration. In the slow filtration process, the key aspect is water quality. Because the main treatment is performed by bacteria on the sand surface, raw water quality must be suitable for biological activity. Among many possible water quality parameters, turbidity is selected as the most practical and important indicator for daily operation. High turbidity not only accelerates clogging of the filter surface but also suggests that other water quality parameters may be unfavorable for the biofilm. Therefore, the necessary data to observe are turbidity of raw water and turbidity at the outlet of the sedimentation pond before filtration. The key parameters to measure at the inlet of the filter are turbidity and, if possible, pH and color as supporting indicators. In addition, flow rate is also listed here because it directly relates to water quality performance. If water quality deteriorates, filtration velocity must be checked at the same time. Even though this is just additional, parameters such as organic contamination, salinity, arsenic, and iron are useful to understand fluctuations in raw water quality that may affect the biological layer. The confirmation points are clear: Turbidity after filtration should be less than 0.1 NTU, and filtration velocity should be below 5 meters per day. When turbidity after filtration exceeds 0.1 NTU, the first suspicion is that filtration velocity may be too high. Reducing the flow rate is the first action. At the same time, the filter media may be clogging. So, scraping the surface of the filter media is another action and countermeasure. If turbidity still does not decrease after these actions, deterioration of the filter media is suspected. This often happens because repeated scraping gradually reduces sand thickness and changes media condition. From here, we will look at the filter scraping aspect. Without proper scraping, the filter gradually clogs. This affects the environment of the biological layer and reduces water quality. At the same time, production volume decreases because flow becomes slower. The necessary data to check are head loss and turbidity after filtration. Head loss is the height difference, drop, between the water level before and after the filter as explained in the basic theory part. Action and countermeasures have to be taken when head loss exceeds 1 meter or turbidity after filtration exceeds 0.1 NTU. Once you find situation is not satisfying based on the data and criteria, these action and measures will be taken. There are not many actions, all you have to do is scraping off. This is carried out by removing about 1 to 2 centimeters of the top sand layer where the algal mat and biofilm have developed. This work is recommended periodically, usually every half month to 2 months, depending on the condition of the filter surface and head loss. The purpose is not just to clean the filter completely, but to remove the clogged portion while allowing the biological layer to regenerate. Because scraping is repeated over many years, the sand layer gradually becomes thinner. When the total removed thickness reaches around 40 centimeters, new sand must be added to restore the designed sand depth. It is also recommended to check the condition of the filter media after about 10 years of operation. A sieve test can confirm whether the sand still meets the design requirements. If the effective size and uniformity no longer satisfy the criteria, the sand media should be replaced. The focus now moves to troubleshooting and inspection. Even with proper understanding of each treatment unit, problems will occur in daily operation. A troubleshooting table is presented in the manual. This table shows how to use all the knowledge explained earlier when an actual problem appears in the plant. Up to this point, each unit process was explained separately together with confirmation points and control measures, which link observable phenomena with possible causes and required actions. For example, higher turbidity after plain filtration may be related to shortage of retention time, occurrence of short-circuit flow, or high raw water turbidity. The cause can be single one or multiple. According to the cause, action and countermeasure to be taken are decided. For example, if high turbidity from the plain sedimentation is observed, it would have been caused by either shortage of retention time, occurrence of short circuit, or both, and the action to be taken is to remove depositing sludge. Relatively more important, more effective or more frequent actions are highlighted by the red rectangles here since some actions might be hard to take due to the circumstances or some causes rarely occurs. This table helps you think systematically. First observe the symptom, then check related data, identify the cause, and finally apply the appropriate countermeasure. This inspection sheet shows what data should be recorded routinely for the purpose of appropriate operation and maintenance. Each item listed here corresponds directly to the confirmation points explained earlier. By checking these regularly, you can detect abnormalities before they become serious enough to affect water quality, or identify the problem caused and will contribute to take quick actions for countermeasures. The columns for daily, weekly, and monthly checks guide operators on how frequently each item should be observed. This creates a structured habit of monitoring rather than depending on memory or experience. The monthly data will be the accumulation of daily summarized date, while yearly data will be created in the same visit from the monthly data. In this inspection sheet, the criteria to each item are introduced, which the details are found in the manual, at the part of the confirmation points and control measure. For your better comprehension and practical usage of the knowledge obtained from the manual, we are going to tackle with case study from now. Let's think about an imaginary Porshava in this case study. The case describes a plant producing about 500 cubic meters per day using surface water as the source. Raw water turbidity is normally between 20 and 1935 NTU and about 10 NTU after plain sedimentation. The treatment process consists of plain sedimentation, slow sand filtration, and then a distribution basin. Under normal conditions, filtration speed becomes around 0.2 meters per hour after scraping, and water quality is good. However, after the most recent scraping, turbidity after filtration has remained unusually high, and filtration speed is higher than usual. This abnormal situation must be analyzed using the principles learned earlier. To solve the problems, where should we start to think? Here is a guidance for you. The first step is to determine what data is needed to understand the situation. In this video, you have learned the necessary data to diagnose the situation from facility to facility. This knowledge is adopted. Based on that, it is also important to identify the data which are actually available. It is also necessary to confirm whether these data are already being recorded. Next, the criteria for judgment must be recalled. Filtration velocity should be around 0.2 meters per hour, and turbidity after filtration should be below 0.1 NTU. These values help determine whether the system is operating within design conditions. After identifying the problem and necessary data, the next step is to identify what caused the abnormal condition after the last scraping. Possible causes include excessive scraping that reduced sand thickness, deterioration of sand media, or biological layer not yet re-established due to high flow rate. After identifying the cause, feasible actions must be considered. These may include adding sand to restore thickness, reducing filtration velocity, or checking sand condition through testing, depending on available resources. From here, I am providing some ideas for solving the problems. The solution begins by identifying the most important data to check. Based on the knowledge from the manual, data such as treated water turbidity, both before and after scraping, can be reviewed. Filtration rate is also essential because it directly influences biological treatment performance. Then, Let's confirm the criteria for the data. Filtration rate should remain around 0.2 meters per hour. And turbidity after filtration should be below 0.1 NTU. The criteria for judgment are recalled from the design values. These two values alone provide strong evidence for diagnosing the problem. Here, providing ideas about how to identify the problems. After the latest scraping, both turbidity and filtration velocity seem to have increased. But are they still in criteria or not? You have to confirm it. If they exceed, one thing clear is that the filter is deteriorated. One of the common causes that may deteriorate water quality is filter clogging. However, since scraping was recently performed, clogging is unlikely to be the cause. Instead, attention turns to the condition of the sand layer and the biological film. The hint is that you observed the deteriorated situation after scraping the filter, so it implies that thickness of the sand filter is not maintained, which can explain the increment of the flow rate. Moreover, high filtration speed makes it difficult for the biological layer to establish. This also suggests that the sand layer may have become too thin after repeated scraping. If the total removed sand depth exceeds about 40 centimeters, the design sand thickness is no longer maintained since it is the standard of the layer thickness, which you will see inadequate thickness with high possibility. The practical intervention is to restore the sand layer to its design thickness, typically between 700 and 900 millimeters. Filtration velocity should be reduced to allow the biological layer to re-establish while monitoring turbidity closely. Observing the filter surface helps confirm whether the biological layer is forming again. A sieve test should be conducted to check sand condition. If the sand does not meet design specifications, replacement of the filter media is necessary. This is the end of the video. Thank you for watching and I hope this video will help you understand the manual better.